Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tom Rivera. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Studies, Emeritus. Emeritus means that I've been retired for a couple of years now. Today is November the 7th, 2013, and it's about almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're in the Fowle Library at Cal State San Bernardino. Our guest this afternoon is Mr. Abe Beltran. Abe has been the mayor of Colton for 6 years, and his main topic this afternoon will be to talk about Mexican Americans involved in politics in Colton. So Abe, welcome to Cal State San Bernardino.
Good morning, Tom.
It's great to have you here.
Nice to be here.
And thank you very much for helping us with the oral history of Colton, California.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, listen, why don't we get started? I mentioned that you were the mayor of Colton for 6 years, but you were involved in politics for more than 20 years or so. Now, how did you get interested in politics?
I first started in politics, or getting involved in politics, when I was around 7, maybe 9 years old. I'm 81 years old now, so it's been a long road. But one of the reasons I got involved was that my Aunt Candy, a lady by the name of Candelaria Morales, got me involved in politics. She always used to take me to the meetings, and she would get me involved in passing out literature for different candidates, and just an all-around interest in politics. A great lady, great lady. And I stayed involved till, the early 1950s. And the Korean War and other things got me away from here. And I never got back into it until 1953, 1954. And I've stayed involved till basically 1975. In 1975, there's been various people that come in and they want some advice on politics, and I try to help them as much as possible. So it's been a good long road, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, you also mentioned the first Mexican-American councilman in Colton, and that was Johnny Martinez. Am I right, Johnny Martinez?
Yeah, Johnny Martinez was the first elected council person in the city of Colton. That was followed by Pete Lukey, Sr., followed by Pascual Oliva, and then myself. And then there's been others.
Well, you mentioned Johnny Martinez, and we're talking about the early 1940s. And I understand that Colton became a charter city in 1887. So when you look at 1987 to 1941, Abe, we're talking about 54 years that our population, Mexican Americans, never participated in policy making for the city of Colton. So you and Johnny and Pascual and Mr. Luque were the pioneers to do so.
Yes, we were. Yes, we were. It was needed. And basically, I think that what happened was the different organizations, mainly La Progresista in the city of Colton.
What was La Progresista? I'm sorry.
La Progresista was made up of gentlemen that had taken upon themselves to try to bring the Mexican American population forward, move them forward, get them into the mainstream in Colton. You see, Colton was an old town, And while we were back in the, shall we say, shadows, now we were starting to come forward and make ourselves known.
Now, the Progresistas kind of inspired you, motivated you to run for office, and also some of the other gentlemen that you mentioned. How did you decide that you're going to run for councilman or for office in the city of Colton?
Back in 1970, before that, of course I had been involved in politics all during this time, and then I had been in the service and all that. And in 1970, I decided that I would run. And I was encouraged by some of my Anglo friends to run for office with their support. And then support from Mr. Luque and Mr. Ayala, I made the decision that I was going to go. I did, and I got elected in 1970.
To be a councilman?
To be a councilman.
And when did you become mayor?
Let me check if I may. The first time that I became mayor was in 1976 to 1980. My second term was 1980 to 1984. So I spent approximately 8 years as mayor in the city of Colton. The rest of the time I spent as a council person, and I served as a council person from 1966 through 1984. When I say council person, it's a council person mayor type of relationship.
Right.
And my last term as council person, I left the council in 1984. I was out through 1990. And in 1990, I decided that I would go back for another term. Sometimes you start thinking, well, there are some things that can be done better. So after being out of the council for a period of time, I decided that I was going to try to better the situation. So I went back and I served another term from 1992 to 1996.
Well, you're a seasoned veteran of the city of Colton politics. Now, looking back on your tenure as a councilman and also a mayor, what was a highlight of your tenure with the city of Colton in those particular positions?
I'm very proud of my service as a council person and mayor in the city of Colton. We have done a lot to move the city forward. We have gotten 2 or 3 youth centers, parks, and you name it. An underpass. Oh, I can go on and on and on and tell you all the improvements that we've made, but at this stage of the game, I would have to start listing them, and they'll come out.
It would run us into another session, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. When you have more time.
Abe, was it tough being a politician in Colton?
Yes, it was. It was hard because of the politicians that were already in there. but not because of those that supported me. The people that supported me, people like Pete Lukey, Pascual Oliva, Manuel Padilla being the major contributor to my my time as a councilman and mayor in support. Those were the Mel Fuchs, Harry Roque, those were people that were supporting me, beautiful people, and that's what made it good. But in the inside political arena, it gets a little hard, and you work yourself through it. You can't be too powerful. If you do, you're going to get in trouble.
Well, you obviously did a good job. Were able to kind of move in and out, and you knew specifically what to do in those particular situations. Now, tell me about your family. When did they move to Colton?
I would imagine that my grandparents moved into what is called now La Placita, which is around the Alamanza area and out by Alamanza Cemetery. When they were recruited to come into Colton, they lived out there around the riverbed in Colton, my grandparents. And they started moving into inner Colton, or the inner part of Colton. And I'm going to say the inner part being the southern part of Colton. I would say in around 1928, they moved there. They built houses and they moved there, which I was born in 1932. Two of my other sisters, one was born in 1930, and the other one was born in 1928. We lived in Colton, in the southern part of Colton. I was born in 1932 in Colton, in a house located on La Cadena Avenue. And I lived there all my life. I was born with a twin sister. I have a twin sister, and I have 5 other sisters. And all in all, I have 6 sisters and myself.
So they took very good care of you then. You were a spoiled kid.
Yes.
You were a spoiled kid.
No.
You were not a spoiled kid?
They kept me in check.
All right. Okay. Now, Dad, what did Dad do for a living? Did he work you said he worked in the mines.
He worked at the cement plant.
Okay.
And he was a radio announcer when I was 5 years of age. And that's the last thing I remember of my father. When I was 5 years old, after that Christmas, right before Christmas, he left the family and went back to Mexico.
Okay.
And never did return. And I understand that they had a family of around 30 kids in Mexico, from different families, of course.
Now, how did your mom cope with that? How did you survive and make sure that you had a roof and some food on the table?
My mother was very, very strong, and my Aunt Candy was very, very strong. And between both of them, they were able to support us and we got along very well. As soon as school was let out, after the age of 8, as soon as school was let out, we would all hit the migrant farm worker trail.
Okay.
We were grape pickers and tomato pickers, prunes and what have you. In fact, one of the places that we visited in our journey throughout the state of California was Hollister, California, where your wife is from. Nice town, nice town.
Beautiful town. You picked Chavacanas there.
No, we picked prunes.
Prunes, okay.
Prunes. Yeah, that was great. That was great. That was a great trip.
And how long did the family follow the crops?
We followed the crops till I was at the ripe old age of 18. I had joined the Naval Reserve, and we were stationed, or we were at Hemet, California, picking apricots.
Okay.
And they called me into active duty. I came home on a Saturday after working all day long out there in the apricot orchards, and came home, and next morning I left for San Diego. Came home on a Saturday. San Diego, I went to, or Saturday I went to San Diego, and I went through boot camp there. The next time I saw my family was approximately 90 days, 6 weeks, I'm sorry, 6 weeks later, when we were transferred, or our company was transferred to San Francisco to join our respective ships. And I happened to be riding on a train going through Colton, and my family, my mother and my sisters were all out there saying goodbye to me as I went through.
I had to watch it.
Very, very, very touching. I was leaving. I was going. I never knew where I was going to go.
Yeah.
Consequently, we went to Mare Island. From Mare Island, I went into Pearl Harbor. From Pearl Harbor, I went to the Philippines. In the Philippines, I caught my ship, and I was in the Korean conflict in full war. And about 6 months later, I went on board the USS Walk. We were cruising outside of Wonsan, and we got hit by a mine. Injured or killed 27 people, injured 40. And luckily enough, the ship did not sink. And we made some repairs on it in Yokosuka, Japan. We went back to Yokosuka, Japan, and then we came stateside to San Diego and then to Hunters Point in San Francisco. We repaired it, and it took about 6 months, and we were ready to go again. But before we went again, my sisters had arranged for us to visit the city of Mexicali. We went to Mexicali, my sisters and I, and there I saw for the first time in, I would say 15 years, I saw my father. And he told me who he was and started crying and all that, the usual thing. I reminded him that men did not cry, as he had told me before when I was 5. And very, very touching type of story, but you know, it's great. It's great. It's touching. It makes you grow. It makes you grow. Everything that I have ever done in my life.
Well, before you leave that point, Abe, it does give me chills when you mention meeting your father after all these years. It does give me goosebumps.
You know, it hurts, but what it does, it makes you grow out of that, out of the fact that you were dependent upon the shadow of your father being there at all times. It cuts that relationship off, cuts it off completely. And all you can do is wish a person like that luck. And if you can help him along the road someplace, you help him. But you know, it's just one of those things that happen.
Well, that's a wonderful attitude. That's a wonderful attitude. How long were you in the service?
I was in the service with Naval Reserve and on active duty in the Navy 4 years.
Okay, Abe, let me ask you kind of related to this, but we had World War II, ended in 1945, and you participated in the Korean War, and you were there for several years. What effect did World War II and the Korean conflict have with our guys that came from that served from Colton, and they came back to Colton, and did they have a different attitude, like I paid my dues and therefore I'm going to improve my community and I'm going to run for office and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to go to school and get my degree? What impact did those wars have on our Mexican American kids that went into the service?
Very much so, very much so. I would not say that most of them were going to go to school. Some of them did, but what it did was give us a certain amount of freedom. Before Colton, while we moved from the riverbed up to the main streets of Colton, we could not enjoy the city as a whole.
Well, you mentioned the main street of Colton. We're talking about South Colton, the main streets of South Colton.
Colton was divided.
Because we were a segregated community. We had South Colton, Mexican town, and we had North Colton, which was across the railroad tracks.
South Colton, there's basically two parts in Colton, North and South Colton. Not anymore. It changed, believe me. It changed. But we have North and South Colton all being one Colton. We still have the four sections in Colton. La Reserva.
You're talking about barrios.
Barrios.
Okay.
La Reserva.
And where was La Reserva located? Where was La Reserva located?
What's that?
Where was La Reserva located?
La Reserva was that area from N Street and 5th Street to the northwest area of town.
Up to 3rd Street?
I'm sorry, up to 3rd Street, okay. That bordered on the cement plant property.
Okay.
La Calle 5 was from N Street, 5th Street, to the southwest part of Colton, all the way to La Cadena, where it joins the river. Then there was the Calle 7, which was basically N Street to 5th, to the railroad, or 5th Street. north, and then to the northeast part of the city to the river. That was called N Street. And then we have Las Palomas.
That's where I'm from.
Yes, yes. That I know very well. Las Palomas was, I built a park there.
I don't.
Las Palomas was, from 8th Street, correct me if I'm wrong, 8th Street to the railroad tracks on the north to Congress Street to the
South.
to the south all the way to the river.
Right, right.
Great areas. In fact, my wife and I get up at least every morning that I get up after I do a little workout and stuff like this. We take a ride and go down and see if all the barrios and all the sections of Colton are still there. They're still there, and they're getting more and more beautiful by the day. Or maybe I'm just getting a little bit older.
You know, Abe,
But it's great.
could we pan, James, could we pan the camera over to Joe Beltran and her daughter Candy?
My wife, there's my
They're
wife
with us today.
My wife, Joa.
Did you get a good picture of them, James?
Yeah.
Okay, so you said hi. Okay, good. All right, now back to the main person, and here we go.
Joa, by the way, my wife, was, when I came back from Korea in '54, I was very active in the Congress of Community Clubs.
And what was that?
The Congress of Community Clubs with different organizations in Colton, and we all formed one, and we used to, Colton was great for las fiestas patrias.
Okay.
We used to have the 16th of September in Colton, and we had a parade every year. And my wife and I, they volunteered us to organize the parade for the 16th of September. And my wife and I took it, took it on, and we organized the parade. It was a great parade. Beautiful, beautiful. We did a lot of those things. And then at that time, Colton was moving. Nowadays, it's sad to say that it's not, there's not too many Coltonites left.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Now, when did you meet Joe, and how did you meet Joe?
Oh, God. We've been married, how many years?
60 years.
We've been married 60 years, so it's been a long, long time. I'm 81 years old, and sometimes I don't remember that very well.
But you were my bus driver.
Excuse me?
You were Joe's bus driver?
Yes, I was working for the high school. When I went to work for the high school, this is a story all on its own. When I was in high school, I took the usual courses, college preparatory courses.
We're talking about Colton High School.
Colton High School. I took the usual college preparatory courses. That lasted about, no more than 6 months. Because the teachers that we used to have were not very receptive to the Latino students. I remember the teacher sitting there And apparently he used to get the Examiner newspaper, Los Angeles Examiner, 2 or 3 days ahead of time. And he would sit 2 or 3 Mexican Americans to the left of the room and the rest of the class, algebra class, to the right. And he would sit there reading the newspaper, and every once in a while, when an Anglo would ask him a question, he would respond. I'm sorry to say that we never did get too much of a response from him. So that basically drove me into the mechanical arts area, where I learned how to rebuild engines, do brake jobs, do drafting, a lot of drafting. I was a great draftsman. And so that I went through school with majoring in the mechanical arts area instead of the ABCs. When I graduated, the principal at that time, Don McIntosh, asked me if I wanted to drive a bus, seeing as I had done the upkeep on most of the buses in the fleet. And I told him yes, that I would like to drive. He says, remember, if you do well, there will be other Mexican Americans that might have jobs like this. I promised him that I would do the best that I could, of course. But I used to have this bus run, and who do I meet? This little redhead. And of course, she took to me. Right away, she went wild over me. And here we are. You know, after I came out of the service, we got married. We We moved to Colton. We lived in Colton for about 6 months.
What date did you get married? Date, your wedding date?
June the 6th.
1953. He was still in the Navy.
Oh, we're still in the Navy, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got it. Now, we moved to Bloomington because over there it was free country. You could live any place you wanted to. And we lived over in Colton over in Bloomington for about 2 years or so. And then we decided that we wanted to move to Colton, and we were looking for a house over in Colton. And Jo was house hunting. And she comes back, she says, oh, great, we've got a place. We've got a place to live. We can buy this house. I told them that we'd be over there Saturday to sign up sign up in order to buy the house. We went over there on a Saturday morning, and when we got there, the real estate person asked her who I was. She says, well, that's my husband. Oh, he started shaking and going into convulsions. He says, we can't allow this. We cannot allow Mexicans to live over here in this area. Needless to say, I went back to N Street, and my Aunt Candy and my mother gave me shelter there. We lived there for the next couple of years.
So that was a tough blow
Oh,
going to, and what was the address, Candy? Do you remember? Where was the house located?
It was over off of Rancho, in those houses around Citrus and north of there.
Yes.
yeah, they were just cement block,
Yeah.
little shacks,
Uh-huh.
you know. There was nothing, but that would get us into the areas of 1956 or so. But the things that the Anglos were doing against the Mexican Americans started way before that. I remember that when I was maybe 15, 16 years old, we would try to go to the municipal pool, but we could only go on Sundays because they cleaned it on Mondays. They cleaned all the grease out after the Mexicans went swimming there on Sunday.
What about the theater, the New Colton and the Hubs Theater?
In the New Colton Theater and the Hub City Theater, you would sit to one side of the theater, and the Anglos would sit to the other side. When you went home up East Street and then turn on La Cadena to go down to South Colton, there was a police station at approximately 9th Street and I Street. There was the old police station with a jail there. And I remember there was an alleyway type of situation there that announced real proudly, because they had put the sign up, that no Mexicans or dogs allowed in the restroom. That was their way of saying, hey, it's our place and you don't come over here.
So that was late 40s then when you saw that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would also try to, we had a little group of guys who were called the Kingsmen. You might have heard of us. And we would try to go, hey, we're going to go see what's going on uptown. As we went across the tracks going north, the assistant chief of police at that time would be up there and say, where are you boys going? And we would announce real proudly that we're just going to be walking around, taking a look at what's going on the north side of town. And he would announce right away, know that you're not going to go north. You Mexicans get back south where you belong. A lot of those little things that happened like that, they were corrected. They were corrected, believe me.
Now tell me, if you can, remember the guys that were in the Kingsmen. Who were they?
The Kingsmen, they were good guys. Bobby Velasquez, Rudy Serrano.
Bobby Vasquez?
Bobby Vasquez.
Bobby Vasquez?
Rudy Serrano. Rudy Oliva. Frank Sanchez. Junior Beltran.
Okay, yeah, you.
That's me, I'm guilty. And about 2 or 3 other guys.
So you were
Good
all,
guys.
You were all from the 7th Street area.
All from 7th Street.
Yeah.
Yes, all from 7th Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Abe, well, let me get into this other one. Entertainment. What did you guys do for entertainment during the time when you were growing up in South Colton? Entertainment, baseball, recreation, or dances? Were you a musician?
No,
Did you go to like Conito Beach?
basically we just hung out and we used to have softball teams. We did a lot of softball. We used to ride scooters right around the sidewalks, wherever there were sidewalks in the streets there in South Colton. We did all that, but what I did was shine shoes on 7th Street at the bars, in front of the bars, in front of a sombrero and in front of a sarape. Man, I used to make extra money, you know, but it was nice. It was really nice. Not too much recreation. Not too much dancing or anything else. Music, no. We just hung out.
What was your music? Was it the swing music or that you guys were listened to and danced to? Were the swinging years?
Yeah, it was the old swinging years type of music at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not too much of it because radios were a little bit scarce, much less television. We never had television. We never had television.
Yeah, we never. You're also a very religious guy.
I'm sorry?
You're a very religious guy. Have you always been part of San Salvador Church?
I was born and raised in San Salvador Church. I was baptized when I was probably 6 months old. That was 81 years ago. And I've been a member all the time. In fact, we live about 3 blocks from the church, Immaculate Conception Church, on the north side of town, a Catholic church. My children went to school there, but basically we went to church there for a little while, but they rebuilt the church. They built a new one down in South Colton, and while they were building the church, my wife and I decided that we would move and become parishioners there at San Salvador, because San Salvador needed us more than Immaculate Conception, and we could do more for them from a financial standpoint, and from our work efforts. And we decided to go to San Salvador. Now we're still there. Unfortunately, we've got a large group of people, but unfortunately there's not too many people that go to church there, that are left there, that were Coltonites, that lived in Colton all their lives. The people that lived in Colton have dwindled quite a bit. There's not too many Coltonites anymore. Mm-hmm. And you see some of our people that we grew up with, and boy, you hug them, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. But the rest of them are, I don't know.
They're different.
God only knows. They're from South America or someplace, but nevertheless, They speak Spanish so I can understand what they're saying.
Let me shift gears. When you were going to school, did you go to Garfield or in Wilson after that?
That was my great days. Of course, my twin sister went with me off to school, and we used to go to Garfield. When I used to raise a little cane, she would straighten me out. I mean, straighten me out. She always has, or tried to. But they used to dress us up like with charro outfits, and her the old Mexican outfit, and we used to dance at Jarabe Tapatio.
Right.
My sister and I, for every assembly, we used to dance. You know, that was great. That was great. But I went through Garfield, a segregated school, by the way, and then we went through Woodrow Wilson, a segregated school, and then I went to San Bernardino Valley College. I also became, and I'm probably the only one that I know of, I'm the only president of a local PTA that is, or the only person that has served as president of PTA, and that was me back at Woodrow Wilson. That was when I had leased a gas station across from the school.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I became the chairman of the PTA. That was great. Those were great days.
Was
That's
it
why I
for,
keep.
yeah, was it for Garfield or Wilson School?
They were both
Okay.
together. Woodrow Wilson / Garfield PTA.
Uh-huh.
Great schools. Great schools. One of the things you did not do when you were in those schools was speak Spanish. It was all Anglo. You know, you had to speak English. English is spoken here. You don't speak Spanish. If you did speak Spanish, you were punished. You know? And nowadays I understand that Spanish is in.
The more things change, the more they remain the same.
Yeah. I've got a great granddaughter, believe me, that goes to Charles Rodriguez School over here, a magnet school, and boy, she doesn't like that Spanish.
Yeah.
But she speaks the language.
Well, you mentioned Charles Rodriguez, Chuck Rodriguez, Medal of Honor winner from born and raised in San
Chuck,
Bernardino. And then we had a Medal of Honor winner from Colton. What's his name? Rudy Hernandez.
Who?
Rudy Hernandez?
Yes.
Medal of Honor
South
winner
Colton.
from Colton, from South Colton. Did you ever meet him, or did you ever?
No, I never had the pleasure of meeting Rudy Hernandez. I heard a lot about him, and I don't know what happened to him. But he came in and out. That was it. Not too many people knew Rudy. But he's a great guy, you know. I mean, anybody that gets a Medal of Honor has done very, very well. You know.
Let me ask you another question, Abe. You know, my dad, Rumba, you were one of his people that he admired because you did things. And you mentioned that you did a lot of improvements in South Colton while you were mayor. And I do remember, you know, the park. I do remember paving some of the streets that were dirt streets. I do remember um, you know, extending the sewer to many of our homes in Colton. In the old days, we had the outdoor Johnnies. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You remember those?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's all we had. That's all we had
Yeah.
when I was growing up.
Yeah. So anyway, my dad was a big fan of yours because he did that. You rolled up your sleeves, and you went at it, and just did what needed to be done to get a project completed in South Colton. Yeah.
Yes, your dad was one of my favorite people, or is one of my favorite people. Another companion of his was Beto Castillo.
Right.
And then, Chavez, Arturo Chavez.
Oh, yes.
Arturo Chavez, and in fact, they put in my driveway over a couple of years, and the driveway got done. It's a little, it goes in a little bit, but your dad and Arturo and Beto, they're good friends of mine. Good friends of mine. Oh, I love those guys. Those were that's what happened, was that I would hang around with the older people. Older, senior in age than me. But I would hang around with them. I would, come Saturday and we were together. I wasn't with the Rudy Olivas anymore. I wasn't with Bobby Vasquez or Rudy Serrano so I lost the young group. I see them every once in a while, but I cut my ties with them basically, and started finding my companionship with older men. That's what moved me forward in those age groups. That's why I had, I can mention friends like Pete Lukey and Manuel Padilla and stuff like that. Manuel Padilla was very, very, very instrumental in moving me forward. He's the one that taught me Spanish. We never spoke Spanish until, it must have been, maybe 27, 28 years old, but we were all English speaking in our family. My mother graduated from Colton High School.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unusual.
Yeah, but my mom graduated from Colton High School.
Huh. And you say you're part of the original settlement of Alcomanza.
Yes, I would say we were.
Okay. Yeah, then the church was moved to 5th and 3rd Street, Rancho, and then from there was moved to the present location of
Yes.
K and 7th now.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Abe and Joe, is there anything else that you would like to discuss or tell us about during this session? Anything else? Anything that I forgot that was important in terms of your experience in being brought up in a segregated community? I'll look at Joe.
I think, honey, it would be nice if you told them about the integration into the fire department and city employment and all.
Yeah, right. We in Colton, even after Luki and Pascual Oliva, some of these people went in there. We still had, in Colton, a fire department that was very segregated and police department that was segregated. The main reason, and it's hard to say, that I ran for council was because I didn't feel that these gentlemen were doing anything about that segregation. And both of them said, oh, he's just going to get in here and raise all kinds of hell. And true enough, I did. I went in there, and one of the first people that visited my office was the fire chief and the police chief. And they were telling me what a good bombero program they had and all this and that. And I told them in so many words that I was not very interested in the little programs, that one of the ones that we were going to get was fair employment type of situation. Needless to say, within a matter of 3 months, they all had Department of Labor funds to bring in Mexican Americans into their departments. Of course, the fire chief had said that there will never be a Mexican American, or not a Mexican American, forgive me, a Mexican living under his roof or sleeping under his roof at any time. That all changed. That all changed, and I can tell you, there's just the segregation issue in Colton and what would happen to me, what has happened to us, myself personally. There's been a lot of change, a lot of change. My wife and I were probably the first segregated group that lived in the north side of Colton, and that was because of a fellow that was the mayor at that time and had a dry cleaning shop, asked us to move into his place in the garage where he had living quarters upstairs, and that was Alva Duke. He was one of the first ones to ask us to move into the northern part of town. We used to walk to South Colton, and we would stop at Hunter's drugstore, I guess it was, or something like that.
Okay.
But they had an ice cream parlor there. One day, Joe and I stopped by on our way down to South Colton, and we sat there some afternoon. And I finally called a lady over as the waitress. I says, may we have some service, please? What do you mean service? We don't serve Mexicans here. And they would not give us anything to eat. And Ray Hunter was the post office manager at that time, postmaster. He was a postmaster, and he had great segregated feelings about people. A lot of those things that have happened, you know, I don't know why it was that I got into so much, but I see a lot of these people my age, in my age group. You know, they don't see this. They don't see a lot of this, but there's a lot of things that happen. But in all, we've made Colton a better place to live, and I can tell you this, there is nothing better. And we've traveled all over the world. My wife and I have. I used to go into San Francisco maybe twice a week. And there was nothing as beautiful as when the plane came over these mountains that we see here. It would come over and into the valley, and we would see Colton down below. And man, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. I can tell you, it hasn't changed to me.
Well, you know, Abe and Joe, I would have ended on that note. However, another thought came to mind when you were talking about the soda shop. Was it hard as a mayor to work with the Chamber of Commerce?
No, as long as they understood what the mayor wanted. That's one of the things that we were talking about, is when you become very strong, or very strong, that can get you a lot of things, but can get you a lot of, you know, they don't cater to it too much, but maybe they enjoy it a little bit. They enjoy a little punishment every once in a while. And I'm ready to give it to them. Not anymore. I'm 81 years old.
You still have that energy, but going back to flying in from San Francisco to our valley and landing in Ontario, and then taking 20 minutes to get home, and you were back in Colton. And I tell people that Colton is the belly button, the Cusco of the world. And that's the way I feel. Well, Abe, Joanne, and Candy, thank you very much for coming to the university today to share your thoughts of how it was growing up in Colton. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Okay.